He owns and operates the Pack-A-Day podcast that airs 365 days a year with over 12 million views on YouTube. A new adventure begins. It's time for the Pack-A-Day radio show with Andy Herman on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and on the free Odyssey app.
Darren Hall throws off the hands and it's picked off. In and out of the hands of the tight end, Johnny Munch, and one of those corners, Corey Ballantyne.
Good morning, Packers Nation. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the Pack-A-Day radio show. My name is Andy Herman. Appreciate you guys being here. We, of course, are live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Happy Corey Ballantyne Day. It is Ballantyne's Day officially. He is back with the Packers. We're going to talk about that momentarily. It comes with some good news. It comes with a little bit of bad news as well, which we will discuss. To help us today, we've got Steve Perhatch coming on, Pack-A-Day Podcast, 8:20 a.m. this morning. Excited to talk to Steve. Would also love for you to join the show. Nicolay Law Fan talking text line 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250. You can also join us over on YouTube. Get your comments in over there, and we can answer any questions via that throughout the course of today's show. Tommy, before we jump into your favorite, my favorite, Corey Ballantyne, how are you doing on this beautiful Tuesday morning?
Beautiful Tuesday right now. Doing very well, Andy. Just been hanging out, vibing, no bad news is good news, right?
No bad news is good news, save for the fact that we do have a little bit of bad news to kick off the show with. So let's get that done with right away. First of all, kudos to Bill Huber over on Packers on SI. He's obviously been on the show multiple times, friend of the show here. He did a great job picking up the Nate Hobbs story and figuring out what's been going on with his injury. Nate Hobbs had surgery on his knee, which does not sound great. There is some good news attached to that. Nate Hobbs, it sounds like, had a more preventative procedure done, that he's only expected to miss about a few weeks, and the open of the regular season is still in play for him to return. For those unfamiliar, Green Bay jettisoned one sort of injury-riddled corner in Jair Alexander. Nate Hobbs has been pretty injured in and of himself. Now, not to the extent of where Jair Alexander has been by any stretch of the imagination, but Nate Hobbs has missed a good chunk of playing time really outside of his rookie season. He has missed games in every single year of his career, and in multiple games throughout that time frame and time period. So this is not something that's necessarily new for Nate Hobbs. There was kind of some concern with just even the depth going into the season, if he was going to be able to play. Here's his games played. It's not insanely terrible. It's not like he's ever played 5 games in a season or anything like that. He played 16 his rookie year, which is great, but then 11 in 2022. 13 in 2023 and 11 in 2024, usually missing, again, somewhere between 4 and 6 games throughout the course of the season over his last 3 years. And now Nate Hobbs has a knee injury that has already required a preventative surgery. The report per Bill Huber says that they probably could have gone into the season. He probably could have played through it. But knowing that they had a few weeks here, that it would take a few week recovery, and that they could prevent, some potential future issues or potentially having to shut him down later, they took that opportunity now. Hopefully this is all good for Nate Hobbs. Anything with surgery and knee, you never want to hear for anybody, much less a NFL player, much less one at corner, where, being able to change direction and speed is a very important aspect of their game. But hopefully this is mostly much ado about nothing for Nate Hobbs. He can get back sooner rather than later. And this was kind of one of the question marks about the depth chart at corner is if you lose one, you're okay for a bit. You can probably get away with, in this case, it would be Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon at the outside corners, with Javon Bullard playing probably a lot more in the slot. But after that, it gets very, very dicey when it comes to actual NFL experience at corner, which is why they may have made the move that they did. But before we get to that, Tommy, thoughts on the Nate Hobbs injury?
Yeah, definitely not ideal for the Packers, and he probably was the most notable name in training camp for the Green Bay Packers, right? Whether it was for good reasons or for bad, but
right.
He was who we were hearing the most about. Now you tend to think like, I don't want to say it's a karma situation, right? But it's like, hey, Matt LaFleur's been telling you to chill, dude, chill all week in practice. And then it's like he's got one speed, which is great. You love to hear it. And now it's a microscopic injury there on the knee to start off things after training camp. So that feels like it almost is like the universe working itself out there on the Packers. But Yeah, I think that as long as he's back, ready to go early in the year for Green Bay, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue.
I'm ready for the universe to be done working its magic on the Packers
Yeah,
in any
I
capacity.
know,
Just let the Packers be the Packers. I don't need the universe to intervene anymore in any situations. But in order to kind of, I guess, cope with this injury a little bit, they did bring back a familiar face, as we mentioned at the onset. We heard that Corey Ballantyne interception, courtesy of NBC at the start of the show. Corey Ballantyne is back. Nate Hobbs injury or no Nate Hobbs injury, this is a move that completely made sense. Let's go over the downside of this news first, or the downside of Ballantyne, and then we'll kind of go over why this does make sense and why they did pick him up. The first thing that we should note here is that, Corey Ballantyne is not a starting caliber NFL corner. He is filled in more than adequately as a starter when he is needed to, which is a huge piece of why you pick him up. But he's not any sort of, top 3 corner in the NFL or anything like that. It should also be noted that the Indianapolis Colts, who have massive struggles with depth in their corner room right now, so much so that they just had to go pick up Duke Shelley and Trey Herndon, Tommy's 2 favorite players in the league. They had to go pick up 2 guys who have basically done nothing. Herndon didn't play a snap last year. Shelley played a handful, if I remember correctly. So they're trying to get reinforcements at this position. They decided to give Corey Ballantyne a $500,000 in signing bonus this offseason, only to say we've seen enough by August 1st, before the first preseason game has even started, and said, no, we're good. We don't need to see any more of Corey Ballantyne. We are out of the Corey Ballantyne business. So they paid him a $500,000 and got rid of him before even the first preseason game. So there was clearly something there that either it wasn't going well or who knows what took place, but the Colts got rid of him pretty quickly after giving him that signing bonus and that guaranteed money. Again, there was probably a reason to why Green Bay initially decided to not be in the Corey Ballantyne business this offseason, is because they wanted to go and hopefully get younger and have a little bit more of that competition between Kamal Hadden, Kalen King, Micah Robinson, and see if any of those guys could step up. So bringing Corey Ballantyne back, again, we're going to get to the good reasons in just a moment, but this probably doesn't solve a ton of different ailments within that cornerback room. So it's worth noting, again, that this is not some sort of crazy transaction that's going to cure the secondary by any stretch of the imagination. But here's why it makes all the sense in the world, and I think is a very good signing for Green Bay. One, the Nate Hobbs injury. It gives you a little bit of depth there. Number 2, while Corey Ballantyne is not your number 1, number 2, maybe even number 3 corner, maybe not even number 4, Corey Ballantyne fits the mold of a number 5 or 6 corner almost to a T, because you need somebody that can play special teams, which Ballantyne absolutely can. He can play on multiple special teams units. You love the fact that he has experience in Green Bay. He's played well when asked to play, and he is experienced with Jeff Hafley's defense from this past year. He has experience from Rich Bisaccia's special teams from the last 3 seasons. So you're bringing somebody in who doesn't have to learn something new or from scratch. And when he has been called upon, when it's been a break glass in case of emergency and you've needed to either call this guy up from the practice squad or even start him in that stretch in 2023 against the Chargers, against the Lions, against the Chiefs, when he was starting and during that win streak, he is more than held up during that time frame. So this, again, is sort of the guy that you don't want as the frontline corner, but as your 5 or 6, you're more than happy to have him on the team. As far as how this, sort of changes the calculus of the cornerback room and what this means for the rest, it really doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, other than for Gregory Jr., who was released in order to pick up Corey Ballantyne. Means a lot for him. But outside of that, Corey Ballantyne, number 1, is going to have to earn his way onto the 53. This is not just some situation where, Corey Ballantyne's back, he's corner 4. He might end up corner 4, but he's definitely going to have to go out and earn that. And Kamal Hadden, Kalen King, Micah Robinson, they still have every right to go out and earn those 4th, 5th, and 6th corner spots this upcoming season. And even if that's the case, and Corey Ballantyne does not make the 53, even if you can get him back on the practice squad, the fact that you would have him on the practice squad to just call up anytime you would need to makes so much sense for Green Bay. So there's a good chance they could potentially get him back in that role as well. So I love the competition here. I think it makes all the sense in the world, understands the special teams, makes it a little bit more challenging that King and Hadden and those guys are going to have to step up even more if they want to make the team, and just gives you one more option with that depth and that he can ultimately provide both on teams and on defense. And with Nate Hobbs being a little bit banged up, Tommy, this feels like again, it's not some crazy victory, but it feels like a win for Green Bay that they were able to basically get him for free at this point of the season.
Right. You always get a guy coming back into an organization where at least at minimum he's going to have an idea of the culture, right? And even if it's going to take some time to get back into a rhythm of things, that if you know what it's like in that building, it's got to be a benefit to you at the least in that area as well.
Yeah, we're definitely on the same page on that, and I'm excited that he's back. We'll see him likely out at practice today. I don't know if we have a jersey number update. This is, of course, what the most people really want to know.
What did he wear before? Do you know what Corey Ballantyne's number used to be, Andy? Are you that much of a sicko?
I believe it was 26, but now I have to double check to see if 26. Wow. I was right. I got it right. I think he actually maybe had one other number. Yeah, 35 he had as well at one point, but 26 was the most recent one. So
I believe you.
Yeah, but now we got to know, if we've got a Corey Ballentine 35. He's back with 35. Okay. So there's your Corey Ballentine jersey update. He will share the number with Jalen White on the offensive side of the ball. So never a great sign for Jalen White probably in that situation when you're having to start sharing jersey numbers, but obviously doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. All right, listening to the Pack a Day radio show live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Reminder, we're live on YouTube as well. We're going to be joined by Steve Perhatch here momentarily at 8:20 a.m. All right, what I wanted to talk about next, Tommy, is Jordan Love, QB1, penning a, signature article over at the Players Tribune titled, "None of This Was Supposed to Happen." And this was a really personal, relatable, and pretty in-depth look at the journey that Jordan Love took from his time where he lost his father in high school to leading up to being the quarterback one of the Green Bay Packers, going from a situation where he was a backup freshman quarterback on the freshman team in his high school team. He was a backup varsity quarterback, finally got a chance, got recruited by a D2 school, finally ended up at Utah State, was a backup there to start off things, and then eventually became the starter full-time in his second year, completely took off from there. And then obviously the rest was history. Played out his junior season, went to the NFL draft. Packers drafted him in round 1. He talked about how he was definitely not expecting to go to Green Bay, was pretty much in shock when he saw Green Bay on his caller ID, and that that they were going to not only draft him but trade up to go get him. And then, of course, kind of detailed some of the Aaron Rodgers situation, extremely complimentary of Aaron Rodgers and how Aaron handled the entire situation. Jordan talking about how all the narratives were spun immediately and, basically saying something to the extent of, this was like the best scenario. He's like, first of all, I've been like a backup almost my entire life. Like, I'm very much used to this. Like, this is nothing new. And to be able to transition into the NFL from Utah State, getting to learn behind Aaron Rodgers, he said was phenomenal for him. His mom was just unbelievable throughout the entire thing. Obviously, the situation with his dad who took his own life and completely unexpectedly, how Jordan navigated that situation. If you haven't had the opportunity to go out and read this article yet, I cannot recommend it enough. It gives you an unbelievable insight into just the mindset of QB1 in Green Bay. And a couple things. I think we all, and I'm preaching, I'm not preaching to anyone, but if anything, I'm preaching to myself on this one too. I think we all can take a moment to remind all of ourselves that these are human beings, right? And I get getting paid millions and upon millions of dollars, and it sometimes it makes it hard to be relatable. It shouldn't. They're still human beings, and it just kind of gives you that backstory and reminds you of like, yep, there are real life struggles that go behind all of these players as well. They're not just a fantasy football player. They're not just a Madden player. They're not just the person that you're screaming at on your TV screen when they throw an interception or celebrating and putting the jersey on when he throws a touchdown or whatever. There's a real human behind it. And then just as somebody who has, my oldest son is 11. Jordan was 14 when this entire situation happened with his dad. Just reminding again, kind of the frailty of life, not to get too deep here on the Pack a Day radio show here at 8:14 in the morning. But also just, again, some of the struggles and even just from Jordan's standpoint of like, he almost quit football in like around his freshman, sophomore year of high school. Was a backup, like was 5'7", weighed nothing, and then kind of went through this growth spurt of just like even as I kind of think of like youth sports today, and like, oh, if they're not playing at the highest level at age 11, like it's all over, it's all done or whatever. Not even saying that my kid's going to go on to be a pro by anything stretch of the imagination, but just a reminder that like, hey, these things can happen at any moment, and you don't know exactly when things are going to click for different people. And for Jordan, it took really into late high school, and then even kind of his sophomore year in college before he finally started reaching the peak of his powers. And then of course it took a whole nother step once he got to the NFL and learned behind Aaron as well. So biggest takeaway is just go read this article. It gives you a great insight into Jordan Love. I really enjoyed every second of it, and just gave me even more appreciation for Jordan the person, much less Jordan the quarterback.
Yeah, and we're going to get a little more in-depth on it on the Mason Crosby Show in our 10-20 segment today. Mason is a former player, so he even speaks about like how throughout his entire NFL career, like he had one day a week where it was usually Tuesdays. Now it's turned into Wednesdays on his days off here at the station, where it's like, all right, we got to like recoup. We got to have a family sit down, like go through everything here and really just clear the mind and try to separate from football. And it's cool to get this story. Obviously, it's not the coolest story, but it's cool to have those moments where you can see these guys separate from the game, where I think I'm super invested in my work. I can't even imagine when you're playing in the NFL how invested you had to have been for how long you have been there to get to that point, right? I mean, now this is year 6 of Jordan Love in the NFL, right? I know he's only starting now for his 3rd year, but he's been in the league for quite some time. He is a pretty tenured player in the NFL compared to the rest of the average. And to see like the personal side and the human side of that, it's a big deal, I think, that people know that is something that is a part of their life too. And some people struggle with that when they only have to balance their personal life. Like now balance it being one of the select 32 people to lead a football team under center every week. Like I'm sure that's not any easier on your personal side when you have that on your professional side.
It is when we talk about quarterback being the most important position in all of sports. Like it's just it is so insanely valuable to a football team having that quarterback, and why it's so hard to evaluate and why teams get these evaluations wrong all the time. It's because this is so much more even than just the ability to throw the football. It's so much more than just the ability to read the defense. You are the face of the franchise. You have to deal with the unbelievable roller coaster of wins and losses, the stress that comes with that when you play poorly and your team loses because of it, and your ability to bounce back. Not only that, but again, your ability to lead the team, go up in front of, not every player has to go after a game and do a press conference. It's not like they're putting, Brenton Cox up there after every single game and being like, Brenton, what happened? This is you as the quarterback have to go up there and answer those questions every single week, regardless of what happens, and be able to handle those situations. There is so much that goes in to that position, and it's the human, it's the leader, it's the quarterback, it's the thrower of the football, it's the IQ that goes into it. It is so insanely hard to be able to have somebody that has all of that, like the head screwed on right, plus the ability then to handle when you're getting, $100 million, whatever it ends up being, and handling that, situation. You have to be made of a lot of the right stuff, if not all of the right stuff. We never know these players perfectly, right? We all have stuff going on in life, but man, pretty amazing to have Jordan kind of have that journey, for him to be QB1 of the Packers, and a very, very, very easy person to root for.
Yeah, and dare I say, it makes Aaron Rodgers look really good in this article too. Whether you want to read that or not throughout it
really does.
I'm just telling you right now, if you don't want to hear those kinds of stories, then don't read this. But I mean, it sounds like Aaron Rodgers was a massive influence on Jordan Love, especially with just realizing that you can separate the two, but really focusing in on, I'm going to be a good person to you so I can help you professionally for the future.
Yeah, a billion percent. And I have 0% surprise about that whatsoever. Obviously, Aaron had to go through the situation with Brett. He got the opposite treatment when he initially came to Green Bay. And also good on Aaron for basically reconciling that relationship too, and making it like him and Brett are, basically like best friends. Or they talk, I mean, at least prior to, we're talking constantly. I don't know where that relationship is at today, but for Aaron kind of figuring that whole situation out and then handling the Jordan Love, the exact opposite of what happened to him, 0% surprise. Aaron is one of the more unique people that you could ever possibly cover or look into. Obviously extremely interesting, just character in general. There is, I mean, we could spend the next 40 minutes talking about like so many of the unbelievable things that Aaron has done, whether it's just being, good to people, the stuff that he's done for Green Bay, the stuff that he's done in his hometown of Chico, California. I've seen him in person go to charity events with kids with cancer and just go so far above and beyond in those situations. Like, he is at all that stuff. And then there's just some stuff that you're like, where's this coming from? And it's interesting. He's an interesting, what is Enigma? What did Mark
Enigma,
Murphy?
yeah, that's his, that's the documentary title.
Yeah. So that's the one too. Yeah, so an interesting fella. Is that what was Mark Murphy's statement for him, or was it something to that effect?
I can't remember. No,
but
I don't
either
remember.
way, yeah, he's definitely that. But he's got a lot of really banked up positive stuff too. So zero surprise that Rodgers came out looking pretty glowing in that piece as well. All right, before we get to Steve Perhatch, Tommy, I got to ask you one last thing, and there's a little Aaron Rodgers twist in this one as well. Who was more vilified, Adam Schefter during the entire Aaron Rodgers trade / demanding a trade / going to the Jets saga in Green Bay where everyone could not stand Schefter, or Shams in Milwaukee for the entire stuff of just like, Giannis? I think Giannis still isn't sure what he's going to do. Which one is public enemy number one in that
Andy,
situation?
I'll answer your question with a question. Which one caused a professional sports team to tweet subtly at them a yawning emoji because they are so fed up with what he has to say?
To be fair, the Packers Twitter account had not yet transitioned into their new, more snarky and a little bit more fun.
Mark
Murphy
ain't letting that tweet go out. No shot.
That's probably true.
No way.
That's
Delete it
true.
immediately. Bucks did not care. That they know how it is after that. And then Giannis even saying yesterday, like, after the guy yells, "All in Milwaukee," and he goes, "All in Milwaukee, baby."
Milwaukee.
Like, come on, Shams. Come on.
I really genuinely like Shams. Seems like he fun when he goes on the Kay Adams show. Like he seems like mostly very likable. But this is like just, I get, sometimes you gotta.
You're just so obviously bored. He's just so obviously like, I need something today. That's all it is. If there was anything else to report other than this is what I'm hearing, like, then it would be something. But there's nothing. There's no teams attached. There's no frustrations aired out. Like, it's just so obviously bored.
And also, too, like to your point, and just kind of expanding upon it, if there was an inkling, like there was a small piece that like Giannis had talked to Bucks leadership about potentially playing for another team. Do you have any idea how quickly that would be plastered on the front of ESPN.com?
Right.
It like if there was just a hint of like, hey, like if you did trade me, just theoretically, what teams would you potentially be looking to trade? If there was an inkling of any of that, it would be story 1A on ESPN and every other, basically major sports site talking about it. So yeah, the fact that this is just like we're still not sure sort of thing. It does feel, like you said, like a very bored and tired conversation, and yeah, certainly not making any friends in the Milwaukee area or in the 414 area code. All right, we're going to get to Steve Perhatch here in just a moment. Of course, if you missed anything, check us out for free on the Odyssey app. Go to thefanmilwaukee.com. Check us out over on YouTube. Milwaukee right now is 66 and misty. High of 78, low right now of 66. This is the Pack-A-Day radio show powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, and we'll be right back with Steve Perhatch right after this. Welcome back to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios and powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Reminder that the Mason Crosby Show is coming up next from 9 to 11. Mason and Tommy holding down the fort today. Right now, however, we are being joined by the one and only Steve Perhatch right here on the Fan Guest Hotline powered by Gruber Law. You can find Steve on the Pack-A-Day podcast and at Steve Perhatch over on social media. Steve, it is phenomenal to be chatting with you. How are you doing, my friend?
Good. I mean, you guys have upgraded now. I have to like look presentable and stuff.
I have not once looked presentable, so I don't know what the heck you're talking about. If that is part of the job description, they have not updated me with that portion of it. So that is definitely not something that you need to do moving forward. You do look very presentable today, though, so I do appreciate that, Steve. Let's jump in right away. Obviously, we got some news over the last 24 hours about this cornerback room in Green Bay. Nate Hobbs is going to miss a little bit of time with a knee procedure that he recently had. Hopefully back for that Detroit Lions game in week 1, although with knees and surgeries, it always gives you a little bit of the, doesn't sound great. And then Corey Ballantyne back in Green Bay, donning the number 35 as well. Your thoughts on the updates on Hobbs and bringing back Corey Ballantyne?
It's funny because, you sent me a whole bunch of stuff about what I was, questions and things to think about for the show. And it's, what are you nervous about? And my one answer was the DB room. It's not great. Like, obviously you bring back Ballantyne. Sure. That's another body there, but this group was already depleted, like almost depleted as it was. It felt like losing Jair over the offseason, and you bring in a new shiny toy, which has been very exciting, and he's been knocking people out and having all sorts of great time. And then, he goes down. So that's it's concerning, to say the least. Like, you want a new player to acclimate with the defense, and sure, you can learn all the X's and O's when you're sitting on the sidelines talking to coach, but you want him on the field playing with the team. So obviously not great news.
No, it certainly is not. The good, if there is good news here, it's that if there are a few players, and we're going to talk about it actually in the next segment, about players that have looked really good in camp so far. The top 3 corners, Nate Hobbs, Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, spoiler, all on that list. They've all had really great starts at camp. Carrington Valentine picked off his 4th pass at family night, and Nate Hobbs very much acclimated to the defense quickly. He fit right in. But again, anytime you hear, starting corner and knee surgery about a month before the season starts, whether it's preventative, whether it's minor, whatever, that still is not exactly what you want to hear. So happy Corey Ballantyne's back. Hopefully Nate Hobbs can be back for that week 1 game. But for a player who has had some injury concerns and some injury issues, it's not exactly what you wanted to hear on August 4th.
Exactly.
Let's get to just kind of some of your training camp takeaways, family night takeaways, where I can't believe it. We're already in double digits today. Practice number 10 for training camp. I think we're over halfway through, or at least close to it for training camp already, which seems absolutely insane. But we've had a lot of, kind of key takeaways, some good, some bad, some ugly at times. But what have been the things that have stood out to you so far most from Packers training camp and family night?
One of the nice things is that for the most part, there really hasn't been any drama. There's been no like crazy headlines. There's no, will he, won't he, holding in, holding out, all that kind of stuff. Outside of Elton Jenkins, but I mean, he's already back and ready to take on the role of center. So there hasn't been really a lot of drama. But the one thing, we had Matt Schneidman on last week from The Athletic, and one of the questions I asked him, I was like, well, who's gonna push for a starting role right now? Maybe not right away during training camp, but who could really push for a starting spot within the first few weeks? And he couldn't. He's like, I can't really think of anything. So this is one of those things. Like the big thing for me is that there's not a lot of drama, but for the most part, this team is set. I mean, you're gonna Gutekunst loves to play with the last couple of roles on the team, like 51, 52, 53, like bring guys in, ship guys out, put them in the practice squad. But man, like for the fact that this team is kind of set and like you can really get in some good reps with all these guys, help them build some even more rapport together. I think that's one of the bigger things that's coming out of camp.
Yeah, knock on wood, the no drama thing continues. Like you said, just a small, thing at the beginning that maybe looked like drama with Elton Jenkins, but we kind of found out afterwards really was not. He was just dealing with a back issue and kind of getting back to ready. And then once he was back in there with team pretty much immediately and good to go without any sort of contract extension. It is interesting of looking at like players who could potentially, like you asked, like, push for a starting role or anything like that. There's some unique, players. Like I think Chris Brooks is going to have a legitimate role as like a number three, or meaning like a third down running back. I think he's going to definitely get time, not only make the team, but get time in that role. I think he's kind of carving out a little niche, kind of space for himself. Jordan Morgan, starting to push for that left tackle spot a little bit more. I think that's an interesting one. I think some of those like rotational pieces along the defensive line, like how much time does Barron Sorrell, Warren Brinson, Nasir Stackhouse, can he sort of carve out a role? There's some of those that are definitely out there, but to your point, for the most part, like, we kind of know who the starters are, who the players getting playing time. Maybe Savion Williams can again carve out some role for himself in the wide receiver room as well. But yeah, there's not a ton of like top of the roster battles where you're like, how is this going to turn out and how could it affect the team? We kind of know the main players and the key characters for the most part going into this year.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be fun to watch no matter what. Like you said, there's gonna be a whole bunch of those like. Matt LaFleur and Hafley get to be creative, and how are they going to use Isaiah Simmons? Like that's going to be fun to watch. But like you said, like Savion Williams, like I want to know, like, is he going to be returning punts? Is he going to return kicks? Like, is Matthew Golden going to be back there? There's a whole bunch of questions that we don't have answers to, but there's not, like I said, there's not those big question marks of like, oh my God, what are they going to do here?
And thankfully, it's probably mostly a good thing, and we again kind of know that the key pieces, and that's not a bad thing. Again, as we're sitting here a month out from the first regular season game against Detroit, you mentioned what you were most nervous about is we're again being joined by Steve Perhatch. You can find him on the Pack-A-Day podcast along with Sarah Kelleher and Dusty Evely. Social media at Steve Perhatch. We talked about what you're most nervous about. What are you a little bit geeked up about so far? Like what's giving you the excitement of like, all right, maybe there's something magical happening here?
Honestly, it's the speed on both sides of the ball. I think that's one of the things the Packers, a couple of years back, they were lacking that quite a bit. And you could tell that was something that got attacked in the draft and some free agency signings, but having, Matthew Golden added to the mix and then seeing all the fun stuff of Christian Watson already cutting and doing that, like it makes my brain go like, whoa, this could be real. And then you haven't even talked about Jaden Reed. You haven't talked about any of the other slew of guys that they have at wide receiver or Tucker Kraft or any, like if you've got two guys that can blaze on the outside, that's going to open so many more things in the middle. So that being super fun, but Isaiah Simmons, together, like get those three on the field together and see them flying around to the ball. Like it's having speed on defense is almost as exciting as having it on the offense.
No, I totally agree. I talked about earlier in the offseason of like, I would love to see a package or formation on offense that just is like your five fat, like get Marshawn Lloyd in the backfield, like you either Luke Musgrave or Tucker Kraft at tight end, and then just get like Matthew Golden out there, get Jaden Reed out there. You could do Savion Williams, you could do McCole Hardman, you could do Christian Watson eventually, right? Like you could get some really fast formations out there on offense and kind of have like a NASCAR offense. And I've also said too, there's a real world. I don't know that there's a way to prove this. If you ever at any point this season get a 3-man linebacker group of Quay Walker, Isaiah Simmons, and Edgerrin Cooper, I would be willing to bet that is the fastest trio of linebackers that has ever existed in the NFL. I would like to see a relay race against any other three. Maybe somebody can think of another three that is in that conversation, but true linebackers. I'm not talking about like a safety playing linebacker or something like that. 3 true linebackers. If they ever see the field as a true 4-3, you might even see it at some point in Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah Simmons duo and like nickel. I think that would be the fastest duo at linebacker that's ever existed. And obviously Quay and Cooper just in general, a very fast duo as well. So they've got some really fun speed on this defense too. Let's get to the Packers. Actually, I want to stick with that speed for a moment. Let's talk about Matthew Golden, because I want to know kind of your expectations for him in his rookie season. I know that's an impossible question to answer as we sit here a month before the season. We've seen a couple weeks of training camp for him, but he's got all these expectations. He's a first round pick. We've seen the flashes already. He's incredibly fast. He plucks the ball out of the air. He's getting significant snaps already with the ones. It looks like he's going to have a pretty significant role in this offense from day one. So with all of that being said, even though it is an impossible question, I'm going to ask it to you anyway. What are your expectations for Golden in his rookie year?
I mean, I try to temper them just because he's still a rookie. I think the Packers traditionally, like we've seen years and years and years in past, will hold rookies back a little bit in the beginning, open them up. I mean, just take a look at Edgerrin Cooper, what they did. Like, he still needed to figure the game out and needed to slow down for him, but you can do that and still put him on the field. So I think with Matthew Golden, it's probably a little bit easier than that, but still my best guess is they'll still limit him to start with of maybe it's only 60% of the snaps, maybe it's 70% of snaps, but they're not going to have him out there for the whole thing. And I'm assuming they're going to want him to continue to work on his blocking so he can be out there more and more. But overall, like, I mean, I'm excited that he's gonna kind of fill right into that Christian Watson role to start with, obviously, and then see how they put them together. But you know, I think it's exciting. There's talks of him returning punts and having him catch some of those. So, like, man, the Packers got some super exciting players in the draft this year, and I just like it's like a kid with new toys. I want to see him on the field. You know what they kind of see the best case scenarios for them.
Well, speaking of those shiny new toys and seeing them on the field, we're going to get our potential first look at a lot of these guys this coming Saturday. Packers-Jets first preseason game. Steve, again, you can find him on social media at Steve Perhatch and on the Pack-A-Day podcast as well. What are you looking forward to in Packers-Jets? Who do you want to see? Position battles that could potentially play out? What are you going to be keeping an extra eye on this Saturday?
Well, especially with the Hobbs news, I kind of want to see what they start putting out at cornerback and see how that goes. I mean, to be fair, how much are we going to really pull from, Packers, Jets?
Everything.
But yeah, everything. I'm sure we will cover it extensively for sure.
We very much will.
Because it's real football. So, I mean, to me, that's more exciting than a lot of the ins and outs of like who's going to make the fourth string safety or along those lines. Like, I'm excited to see football again, like real football with the Packers, because I didn't watch that first preseason game with the Lions. You
didn't miss much.
No.
Yeah, you did. Definitely did not miss much.
But yeah, it's just going to be exciting to get Packers football back. I do want to see kind of the DBs, but I also want to see kind of the implementation of running backs and wide receivers. So kind of who's on the ends, where's that wide receiver list set at? Like, what are they going to do with Cole Hardman? I think that was another one I didn't even touch when it came to speed, but oh my God, they have him too. So,
yep.
So yeah, I think it's going to give Matt LaFleur a lot of fun times to kind of play with this offense and figure out what he's going to do. But overall, like seeing this offense on the field again, see if they do play Jordan Love. I don't know if they will, but if they get him in for a series, I'd be okay with that and kind of get his feet wet. Same type of thing, only 3 games this year. So yeah, let's get him going right away.
Well, this is going to kind of be my follow-up for you is should they play Jordan Love? I think this is the only practice that they do not have joint practices ahead of. So they have joint practices for their next 2 preseason games. So you could make the argument of like, for those 2 weeks, he's going to get the work that he needs in the actual joint practices with the red jersey on, not putting him in harm's way. And that's probably more valuable potentially. But this week they don't have that. It also, again, for any starters that play this week 1, if this is the week that you decide to do it, if there is any injury to anyone, it does at least give you that extra week to recover before the start of the regular season as well. I think if there is a time to play them a little bit more, I almost feel like it maybe would be this week. But how would you handle that if you were Coach Matt LaFleur?
Yeah, I think I would get them a little bit of playing time. I mean, I feel like they've in the past previously been pretty, hands back, like, ooh, maybe let's not risk the injury. And I get it. Like if LaFleur comes out, Gutekunst comes out and goes, you know what, Jordan Love is not playing at all this preseason. Everybody be like, okay, yep, that's cool. No problem there. But if they decide that they want to get him some reps, he does have some new receivers that they really want to try to get some in-game work with. Yeah, if he wants to get Matthew Golden out there with him, if he wants to get Savion Williams, if he wants to get Hardman, like some in-game reps, yeah, absolutely. Like get him, it's vanilla offenses versus vanilla defense. So I'm not super worried about it. I would say give him a series in the first game.
I'm all for it as well. We're being again joined by Steve Perhatch. You can find him tomorrow on the Wednesday Pack-A-Day podcast, along with Dusty Evely and Sarah Kelleher. All right, before I get you out of here, I got a fun one. I want you just put your Matt LaFleur hat on. I want you to put your Brian Gutekunst hat on. If you're calling Jerry Jones right now and you're building him a Micah Parsons trade, what are you throwing in to what's your offer to Jerry for Micah Parsons?
So I would go. That's the one I saw a little bit earlier, and I think I saw something that the Bears were kind of tossing around, but who knows if there's actual truth to that. But
sure.
In order to kind of beat the Bears, one of the things I saw was I would go two first-round draft picks, and then Luke Musgrave.
Okay, all right. So, I would if I were Green Bay, player. And if Dallas called and said we're willing to give you, Micah Parsons for Luke Musgrave and 2 firsts, I sign off on that pretty quick. I'm willing to take that deal. The contract is the big thing. You're going to make him the highest paid defensive player in football. That's going to limit you in future seasons as to what you can do. I mean, free agency is basically going to be nuked for the next few seasons. You're going to have to do everything you can just to re-sign some of your own players. But here's the thing. Goody's really good at finding good players just about anywhere. Like, he can find all these guys in the 2nd through 7th rounds for signing guys off practice squads, like the guys like Isaiah Simmons. And like, he finds these guys everywhere. I'm not concerned about that. Finding the Micah Parsons type players, that's been a bit more difficult. Couple first-round picks in Luke Musgrave, sign me the heck up, and I would definitely take that deal. If it's me, Steve, I'm all in on that offer. So I love that one. Steve, I cannot thank you enough, not only for coming on today, but everything you do for the podcast as well. Where can we find all of your incredible work? And do you want to say anything mean about Dusty Evely before we get out of here?
We always have a good time. It's that when the three of us get together, there's always a good shtick. Somebody gets picked on. It depends on who for the week. So
on the day,
yeah. But we always have a lot of fun. And as much as I joke with Dusty, I've learned quite a bit. That man knows a lot about football. So, but yeah, make sure you're following us at Steve Perhatch. That's on Twitter. I still refuse to call it X. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, anytime you get a chance to listen to the Pack-A-Day podcast.
We'll mute that part out about complimenting. We have a no complimenting Dusty Evely policy here on the Pack-A-Day radio show, so we'll bleep that out moving forward. But you guys all do incredible work. I appreciate you a ton. Thank you for joining us today on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Steve, we'll do this again very, very soon. You enjoy Packers Jets this weekend.
Sounds good, my friend.
I appreciate you. Follow him at Steve Perhatch. We've got a lot more Pack-A-Day radio show coming up in just a moment, so do not go anywhere.
Carrington Valentine to the interception, and he's heading to the south end zone stands for a Lambeau lead.
I believe Carrington Valentine leads the team in interceptions over the course of training camp.
Welcome back to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. That was some Carrington Valentine audio from his interception at Family Night, courtesy of the Packers. A huge thank you to Steve Perhatch for joining us this past segment as well. Make sure to follow him on social media at Steve Perhatch. Also, Mason Crosby Show with Mitch, or actually today it's with Tommy Wartz, coming up from 9 to 11, so do not go anywhere. And the Pack-A-Day Radio Show is also now a podcast. You can find us anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite pods. Catch the full episode, listen by individual hour, or jump straight to the highlights. Just open up your favorite podcast app, search Pack-A-Day Radio Show, hit the follow button so you get every minute of every show your way and on your time. Right now, we are heading over to the Nicolay Law Fan Talk and Text line with John and Franklin. John, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Andy, I'm doing good. And just a couple things briefly. First of all, I want to thank you because there's so much smoke out here, and I'm not talking about Canadian wildfires with stuff that's going on. I got my son calling me from Dallas. What's going on with Giannis? Is he saying, and this new talking head from ESPN, Sham or whatever his name is, talking about unnamed sources and this crap. We can count on what we hear from you. Maybe you're a little bit sunny for my takes because I'm a little on the sour side, but I do appreciate the accuracy you bring. And then I got a question for you.
You bet.
If I backed you into a corner, what would your over and under be for the number of games Nate Hobbs is going to miss this season? Because when you first came on, we picked him up shortly after, and I asked you then, why are the Packers? And at that time, we didn't know exactly what was going on with Alexander. We knew there was problems. We didn't know, blah blah blah. But as like you alluded to earlier in the hour about the thinness of the depth of this cornerback room, why would your main cornerback replacement for Alexander be another guy with a significant injury history?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question, and I'll answer it in a very as much of a sunny way as I can to stay on brand for sure. But no, I think here's the thing, and we talked about it obviously in the first segment. Nate Hobbs has not been able to play pretty much a full season since his rookie year. And instead of games, I'll answer it in this way. He's played 2,833 snaps over his 4 years in the NFL, averaging right about 700 snaps per season is what you're kind of looking at. And it kind of, pretty much evenly averages out that way. You had 837 his rookie year, followed by 667, 775 in 2023, and then 554 this past year. So that through line is right around 700 snaps. So if you're giving me the over-under, I'm going to set the over-under right at 700 snaps. I'm hoping that he plays the over. I would probably, I guess knowing that he just had a knee procedure done, I guess maybe I would take the under on it as of right now. But of course, the hope is that he can play or take the over and definitely play more than that. Here's the one thing I will say: there has not been a through line with Nate Hobbs with his injury history where it's just been like, well, his knee continues to be an issue, or his shoulder continues to be an issue, or he's had a torn ACL or an MCL, and like there has not been something consistent with him. It has been sort of a smattering of different injuries that's been a little bit unfortunate. It feels a little bit more fluky. It does not seem consistent with anything. So you're hoping, and again, he did not miss any games as a rookie. You're hoping that he can go out there and play a full season for you. He's still young. You're not bringing in a 33-year-old player who's more likely to get injured. He's in the prime of his career. And, part of the reason why you're able to get him, with the contract that you did, despite him being a good starting corner in the NFL, which those players were going for about 11, 12, 13, about 5-6 million more per season than what Nate Hobbs, ultimately got, is because some of those guys have had a bit more durability. So again, injuries are not always predictive, and the hope is here that he'll be able to play a full season in Green Bay, or at least close to it, without missing a bunch of time. We're going to get to our Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought in just a moment. Before we get there, Tommy, leadoff show coming up today?
Yeah, we'll be live at the State Fair today, Andy, as well for the leadoff show, 5 to 6, immediately following Wisconsin Sports Daily. The Brewers, a lot of fun to talk about right now, and Quinn Priester, another just baller performance now, franchise record tying 10 straight victories in decisions now. I've been saying it for a while now. he's my second favorite player to watch after The Miz on the team. He's so exciting. And it's not that he's even all that flashy. It's just the way he is approaching it. It's very reminiscent of like he's very fast paced, like a Wade Miley was, but he's got like a way stronger sinker. He's just trying to miss barrels. We'll talk all about it today. And he spoke to the media as well after. Hear from Quinn Priester, Isaac Collins, Pat Murphy, of course, too. All coming up on the leadoff show today, 5 o'clock.
I was thinking about this the other day, or just yesterday, actually. The Brewers, again, they only put up 3 runs yesterday, so it wasn't anything like an extraordinary offensive performance or anything like that. But the lineup that they could put together, or at least pretty darn close to it, with just the guys that are on the IL right now, you could have an outfield, or at least not playing, of Sal Frelick, Jackson Chourio, and Garrett Mitchell in the outfield. Have Jake Bauers either playing first or DHing, Rhys Hoskins doing the other one. You actually have like a pretty significant team that you could almost put together just by guys that aren't playing right now. Not to mention, Shelby Miller, Zastrinsky as your relievers, Jacob Mizorowski right now as your starter. They could actually put together like a heck of a starting lineup just with guys that aren't playing on their team right now due to injuries, and they're still going out and winning games even with all. It's remarkable.
It's called nasty, Andy. Team's nasty.
They're just winners, and I love every absolute second of it. It's been so fun to watch. We'll definitely be checking out the leadoff show later today, but let's get to our Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought of the day.
You got to do some smart thinking.
It's time for Andy Herman's final thought of the day.
What are you thinking?
Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
What the hell were you thinking?
You're listening to the Pack a Day radio show on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan.
We're going to have to go through this a little bit lightning round, but here are my key players who have performed best, in my opinion, through training camp and family night so far. Still relatively early. We're not crowning anyone here today, but these are the players that I think have had the best start to training camp thus far. Brandon McManus has been near perfect, missing 1 field goal, maybe 2 if you count the walk-through one. But overall, he's still been absolutely incredible. Zach Tom, just consistent. Same Zach Tom, signs a new contract, shows up to all the OTAs and mini camps even without the contract, just as steady as it goes. He's been fantastic in camp as well. The Georgia defensive tackles, Warren Brinson, Nasir Stackhouse, both of them have had really nice starts. Stackhouse making a real legitimate push for a roster spot, and they've been impressive so far, looking like they might be able to contribute as early as the season. We talked about the top 3 corners, Carrington Valentine, Nate Hobbs, who now of course has that injury, and Keyshawn Nixon have all been fantastic in camp. The linebackers, we haven't seen Quay yet, but Isaiah Simmons has made a name for himself. Tyron Hopper's taken a jump. Adrian Cooper looks really good. McDuffie says, the exact thing that you would expect from Isaiah McDuffie. Even Jamon Johnson had a really nice family night as well. So linebackers have been looking good. LVN, his best training camp of his short career so far. He seems to be trending in the right direction. Had some nice plays in family night and is basically coming up with a big play almost every single day at camp so far. Of course, Omar Brown, 5 interceptions, including 3 at family night. And then just the consistent, steady Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs, who have been fantastic as well. Just a hat tip and honorable mention to Bo Melton also, who making that transition from wide receiver to corner is no easy feat, and he is doing it with about as much ease as you could possibly imagine for a very difficult transition to the opposite side of the football. All right, that is going to do it for me today. Of course, as we mentioned, we have got Tommy and Mason coming up on the Mason Crosby Show here in just a moment, so do not go anywhere. You can find the Pack a Day podcast 365 days a year wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Of course, the Pack a Day radio show now as well. We will be back tomorrow with Aaron Nagler, Cheesehead TV. Really looking forward to that conversation. You're not going to want to miss it. Again, 8 o'clock Pack a Day radio show tomorrow. This has been the Pack a Day radio show today. Enjoy your Tuesday, and of course, go Pack Go.